out, man. Hey, everyone. Welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here.
Simon here.
Simon McBride, the new guitar player for Deep Purple. Join us in the studio today. Simon's got a new board, a new amp. We're going to talk Deep Purple. I'm very excited.
Very, very excited. Still working on it, I see, Simon. Still getting to grips with the basics.
Yeah, a few more lessons and I'll be all right. You know?
Yeah.
I'll book myself in.
It's great to welcome Simon back. I don't know, when did we first meet? 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Something like
Through
that.
Guitar Magazine land. Simon's been on the show once before, I think for a Pedalboard build previously. Dan has put this together in two duplicates, right?
Yes. So myself and Jake, to be fair, mainly Jake, but we've been working on two pedal boards because you need an A and a B rig.
Yes, right. Yep.
I'm assuming you've got two lots of stage, and one goes off to one gig to get ready. The other one, so they're sort of
we
hopping.
we have two identical rigs.
Right.
You know, 'cause sometimes we'd maybe do one show, say somewhere in Europe, and the next show will be in, say, America. And
right.
So while we're doing the show in Europe, the gears are already on its way to the show in America. So it's a case of, we just jump on a plane and just fly there, really.
Okay.
So it's the only way you can do it in such a big band, and do lots of shows. Because with Purple, they're so old school. They don't use Kempers or anything digital whatsoever. It's a bad word, in that band. So that's the only way we can do it, is to have two rigs running. I think they actually have three rigs, but I drew the line at two. I was like, no, I'm not getting another C rig. Don't need it, but
It's big time, isn't it? Where A and B rigs, that hopping thing from one venue to the other. And
Yeah.
everything in. So, bit of very brief history before we get into the guitar tones then. So your introduction to Deep Purple was presumably via Don Airey.
that's correct. Yes. I met Don, must be 15 years ago now, I think. It was actually, I met Don through PRS. Don runs a little charity festival in his hometown, and I think Don phoned Gavin from PRS and asked Gavin, did he know anybody who would like to open up his little festival? And Gavin obviously thought of me, and so I flew over, did the gig, which was great. It was all very last minute, and because I play with two musicians, John Finnegan and Alex Meadows, who I'd never met before or even played with. And we met each other 5 minutes before stage time, that is, and we went on and played a bunch of my songs, and it was great. It was great crack. So, but ever since that, Don's got me to play in some of his records, and then he asked me to play live, and so just it's all stemmed from there, really.
Amazing.
Now I'm in one of the biggest rock bands ever.
How does
I know.
so just take me through that, because one day the phone rings and says you're in Deep Purple now.
Yes.
How do you even?
I don't know. I'm still pinching myself. I'm like, is this real? The thing is, I've been in the band now, was it just under 2 years, and I think it's because they're all so nice and so dead on, and they're just normal people. You just feel like you're playing a local pub or something, even though you're playing stadiums or whatever. They're so nice to get on with. So that stardom thing or that idol thing disappears very quickly.
Right.
So.
But that, man, I mean, what a thing to wrap your head around. You're stood there on stage, and you've got Pacey doing his thing, Roger, Gillen out there, and Don Airey, who took over from John Lord.
That's right.
Right. And you, I don't think, I mean, I would never wrap my head around that. It's awesome.
It's incredible. It's been an incredible 2 years for me. It's funny, I remember the first show. It was a funny experience. It was in Tel Aviv, and and this was just after COVID, and I hadn't done a show in 2 years
Right.
because of COVID or anything. And so my first show back was playing in front of 10,000 people with Deep Purple. I was standing there on stage going, what is going on? It's going to so much. I remember that show. I don't get nervous for shows or anything.
Yeah.
I was shaking backstage going, oh, crap. And I went on stage, and we always start with Highway Star. And
Of course you do.
so, it comes in with a big chord of, G, like a... Let's turn all the grease off. So yeah, and then Pacey brings it in with a little kind of train beat shuffle thing that he does, and then Roger comes in, and then it's usually Don and me. But I'm standing there on stage going, "This is amazing." Next thing I hear is this, "Simon!" I'm like, "What? Start the song!" Oh shit! He's like. Sorry, but yeah, that was my first experience. I completely screwed up the intro to Highway Star, but after that I was fine. So yeah, that was a bizarre experience. Just standing there going, "That's Ian Gillan."
Because it's a lot of shoes, isn't it? There's a lot of history with Deep Purple. Maybe Google it and just look at a bit of the history of the band. But Richie Blackmore, obviously, if we don't mention Richie today, that would be a crime.
Oh yeah.
And then some other things, and then Steve Morse for a long time. So 4 big shoes to fill there. Do you ever think about that, or is it? It's my gig now. Screw you guys.
I think for me, I don't really think about it that much. Because the way I look at it, there's so many great guitarists in the world. If you thought that way, you would be, forever panicking about doing any show or doing any cover gig or whatever you do. So it's just, I just have confidence in myself and what I do. And I just, when I first joined, I was kind of like, well, I hope people like what I do, because I ain't changing. I don't want to sound like Richie. I don't want to sound like Steve. I don't want to sound like, Satriani or whoever else was in. I want to be me, because I remember the first in rehearsals, and I was talking to Don, and I was a little bit unsure of what way to go. I was like, do I play like Richie? Do I play like Steve? Or do I do this? And it was really him who just says, Simon, ignore all that rubbish.
Right.
Just, you play. Be yourself. Don't worry about Richie's playing. That wasn't the exact words he says. I couldn't really repeat them. But that was the gist of it, was just, be yourself. Don't try to be Richie Blackmore. Don't try to be Steve. Just, because their history, that's part of the history of Purple. That's a sound they had. And, this is the new chapter of it, and that's what I did. And ever since that, I just kind of embraced it all and just play. Well, I obviously played certain parts of the songs.
Yeah,
like
sure.
there's certain parts of, certain songs you can't get away with not playing, like certain solos. It's like it's part of history, like the solo in Highway Star is
It's part of the song.
yeah it's musical. That's you take a lot out, and it's like, well, you've just it's like me taking a chorus out of a song. You can't do that. So I try to be respectful to Richie's parts and Steve's parts, and a lot of the newer stuff. There's certain songs I can get away with just taking little bits and pieces, and then I add my own thing to it. Like Smoking the Water, I don't play the exact same solo. A lot of the Richie fans will be disappointed in that. But there's certain elements I love about it, and there were certain elements I wasn't so keen on. So I just, made
To
it my
have
own.
that flexibility in a band like Deep Purple is wonderful. But because you've been playing with Don Airey for how many years before you joined Purple?
Oh, probably, that must be 13, 14 years, yeah.
And you were doing a lot of that material, anyway. So I guess, he must have been, when he heard you play, he must have just been over the moon. And then for you moving into Purple must have felt like a natural progression, certainly for Don, because you've been doing that material together for so long.
Yes. But yeah, with Don stuff, to be honest, we did a certain amount of purple stuff. He always tried not to do a lot of the purple stuff in his own solo
Sure.
project, just because of the conflict of interest. So we did a lot of rainbow stuff as well, but it was all a lot of the older purple stuff, and rainbow was Richie Blackmore as well. So it's very similar, the writing structure or even the way the riffs are constructed. But yeah, for me joining it was the natural thing, because I play with Don. Don knows me inside out the way I play him. I play with Gillen. You know, I did a tour with him, so he knows the way I play. And I've actually played with Pacey before, or played with Roger. I just never played with him
All together.
So I was kind of like the obvious, you know, decision, really, you know,
Brilliant.
rather than go and audition a load of guitar players, you know. I'm very privileged to be a part of it, because they could have had anybody, you know. They could have they could have had, I don't know, the late great Jeff Beck if they wanted. Anybody to choose from. So, but they chose me, and I was like, really? Okay. So I'm very lucky.
I think they're lucky as well.
Oh, thank you.
I honestly, for me, it's a perfect fit. We've been very blessed to have heard snippets of some of the new stuff that you've been doing. You're actually recording a new Deep Purple album.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just awesome.
I said to Simon, so who's writing it then? He said, well, me. So you're actually writing Deep Purple tunes. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's a great experience. It's still, you know, but as I said, like, after a while, you become part of the furniture, as they say.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's just Simon, you know. That's just Gillen, you know.
Before we get into the board and tones, then there's one thing I'm really interested in. I had the great pleasure of standing next to Don Airey once, or at least standing side of stage.
Sorry about that. Can you hear still?
Hello, Don, if you watch this. Next to his rig, and for those of you who don't know, Don plays a Hammond organ into a whole bunch of Leslies and Marshalls, right?
Yes.
What's his actual rig? How is it comprised?
He has his Hammond, and then he has two Leslie cabinets, and then he has a Marshall stack. Basically, he has, at the minute, he's using one of the little JCM 800 studio ones,
right,
into a 4x12. It's funny because every time we're in I think it's Austria. There's a music store in Austria, and we always go there. And every time I go in, Don comes out with an amp because I plug into it. He has a Marshall Jubilee, the big one, which 4 or 5 years ago he bought that because I plugged into it, and he was like, "Oh, I have to have that." And it was the same with the JCM 800. But that's his setup, and then he's a bunch of keyboards and Moogs and stuff like that all around him. It's Don's world, as I call it. It's a little, you know, world of hell.
But sonically, it's like being hit by a truck.
Yes.
It's he addresses the keyboard, he puts his fingers on it, and then it's like being hit by a truck. How do you? So when you're on stage with Purple, where's his rig? Where's your rig?
He's kind of like right beside me, but behind me, you know. So when you see Purple, you know, you see my rig. There's like 6 4x12s.
Of course, there is.
Has to be, you know. It's
It's just so right. It's 2023, and we're talking about 4x12.
Come on.
Yeah, it's 6 4x12s, and you know, that's been the name of my new solo album, 6 4x12s. But you know, I don't use them all. And in fairness, it's a stereo rig, so the middle two aren't on. You know, so. Yeah. I did have them on at the start, but it was just overkill.
Only for 4x12s. I mean, what's the world coming to?
So yeah, he's kind of behind me, but it's also a great barrier between me and the force of the Hammonds and the Leslie coming at me. So when I stand in front of my amp, it's like, oh, this is lovely. It's nice and quiet here. I take it. There's a little gap about this much between me and Don. And as soon as I step into that gap, it's like, oh nope, I'm going back over here. It's but yeah, Don's an incredible person and musician. I just watch him every night, like, and the things he can do with that Hammond is, I can't even fathom.
Yeah.
That he does these things in certain chords, and you'd feel like the Hammond is squeezing together, but it's him and he's pushing it. It's unbelievable what he can do with that thing. Even he does a keyboard solo every night, and it's just like,
it's so cool.
Yeah.
And sonic space wise, so I asked Simon before we got filming today, an idiot's question about Deep Purple. I said, how do you do the intro to Smoke on the Water then? Because surely it's doubled. There's 2 guitars. And he's like, it's not 2 guitars, is it?
No, it's just one guitar and John Lord. That's it. No, if you listen to any of those kind of old, Purple records, I think the guitars panned all the way left and the John Lord's, the keyboards panned all the way to the right. So if you have a system where you can pan your system to the left, all you hear is a guitar. And then you pan all the way to the right, you hear the Hammond. And that is how I learned the Purple songs. And if anybody tells me I'm playing them wrong, they're wrong. Because it's literally, I can hear Richie clear as day.
Right.
Everything he's playing, all the little nuances he does with especially in the likes of Highway Star, like, we on dirt. So if you have, even simple things like in the keyboard solo, goes to, you don't hear when in the full mix, but you can sort of hear it a little bit, but it just adds so much more drive to the riff and stuff. So all those little things, it's, Richie was I say was, he still is, he's an incredible musician and player, it's all the little things you don't think about. And like a lot of the time when he played riffs, it was never, every time the second time around he played it was always slightly different.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Slightly.
Okay.
Just one note or something.
I hadn't listened to any Purple in quite some time, and over the weekend, because you were coming in, I'm stuck on, Apple Essentials, Deep Purple.
Yeah.
And it is a fascinating point in music history because you've got the hard rock thing emerging, you've got huge elements of prog, and then there's I don't know what you would call it, like neoclassical little bits of, I don't know, some composer put in with these little motifs that go up and down. It's a real unique.
Yeah, but there's a lot of influences there, Richie and Don, Don's very classical minded, and I think John Lord was the same. Richie loved classical music as well.
Yeah.
There's lots of songs that have little classical pieces in them, more so in Rainbow.
Yeah.
And then you've, Pacey, who's big jazz head, loves jazz. That's where big band stuff. That's where he grew up. Roger is more of a singer-songwriter, believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's why he made such a great producer, in the 80s and 90s. So he thinks like a songwriter, like an acoustic guitar and vocals. That's what he thinks. And then Gillan is, he's just unbelievable. That man. Like, you look at his influences are like Elvis Presley and all these other, 50s guys, and then you listen to him sing and you go, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Like,
Slightly sensitive question. Where are we key-wise for all the songs these days? Are they all original keys? Are they some of them down? They're all original keys?
Really?
there's only one which we dropped down, and that is Perfect Strangers.
Yeah.
That's it. But everything else is standard key.
Amazing. I saw some clips of you guys recently, and I was struck by Pacey's drumming, because I've always been a fan. I was a little nervous to watch it, wondering, and it's like, no, man, he's
on it.
there. It's like, that must be so much fun.
Yeah.
To, with that rhythm section.
Yeah. It's. I remember Don telling me once, sometimes playing with Purple, it's like somebody hitting you over the head with a baseball bat. When Roger and Pacey and they all just lock in, it's like somebody's pushing you forward. And it is, once they get going, some nights I'm just hold on, hold on. I don't know how to describe it. It's controllable chaos or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird, but
that chemistry is still there with those guys.
If they're having fun on stage, it starts to come out. You hear it. It's like, oh, there they are.
Yeah.
There's Pacey and Roger. They're just like that. most of the time. I watch Roger some nights, and there's certain stabs and songs, which aren't too, because we don't play the click or anything like that. So and then maybe we slight, and like ends of songs, whereas like and him and Roger don't look at each other at the ends. Roger's always like front, doing the rock star poses, as they say. But the two of them, they're just perfectly in sync. When they hits a bass note, he hits the crash. He hits the. It's like, whereas I'm always looking to see, it's just they know each other so well, and I suppose that comes from all the years of playing together. They just can. It's I don't know. They just naturally do it.
Yeah,
right?
sure. That's beautiful.
Let's get into some board and tones then. Maybe Dan, you could run us through the board, because today is the first time Simon has seen this board. So there's a bit of setup stuff to do and to learn how to use it and everything.
Yeah. So Simon got in touch with me a couple of months back, saying that his other board, you had all the sounds you like, but you were having to jump around quite a bit.
There's doing a lot of tap dancing, basically.
Yeah.
In Purple, it's not so much. There's just a few songs where it's just I always made mistakes and started hitting wrong buttons here and there. So it worked fine, but I just thought, what, I need a board which, if I want to, turn on three things at once and do that, I can do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not only the board for Deep Purple, it's a board for my own thing, which is a lot more. They would have cleans with compression, the shimmer, reverbs and stuff going to a hard rock thing in one button. So I thought, you know what, let's do it. And no better person than yourself.
Oh, bless you.
It was, yeah. So, and this is the first time we've seen it, and it's not as big as I wanted it. No, it's
been a Noel Gallagher moment there, haven't we?
No, it's spectacular. It looks amazing. Now you just have the hard task now of showing me how to use it.
Sure. So what we'll do, we're not going to see all of this because it's going to be quite a long process. Because this is the first time that Simon's seeing the board, one of the things that's really important to do as a board builder with any artist is when you run them through it, because, we've got MIDI going on here and, all the different loops and stuff that we can do, I need to make sure that Simon is 100% happy and has everything that he needs. So I'll be taking notes, because what I will do after today, I'll take this back and, a couple of little details that I will tidy up on before I finish the second board and make it exactly the same and get them shipped off. So I guess the first thing to go through, you've got an Engl amp now,
Yes.
which I've had at this workshop with me for a couple of weeks, and I've been having so much fun with it.
It's an animal. It's an animal, that thing. It's when I first joined Purple, I was using Steve's amps.
Yeah.
He's a signature head with Engl, and they're great. It just wasn't for me, and so we spoke to them, and they were very cool, and they'd just come down and, okay, what do you want? And it was Tommy, my guitar tech, discovered this artist edition head that they do, which is originally an old Richie Blackmore head.
Oh, wow.
Well, they made for Richie Blackmore, so this is just like an evolution of it, really. So they brought it down, their version of it, and I thought, it's great, I want it. But so I got them to do several tweaks to make it a bit more aggressive in the mids and stuff, because I'm so used to playing old, fire-breathing dragons with Marshalls and stuff like that, which are a bit uncontrollable.
Sure.
So that I wanted a bit more of that in this amp, and he's done a great job. And with Purple, because of the separation between Don and myself, because he's also playing through like a Marshall overdriven, so it's always very hard to get get that separation between the Hammond and the guitar.
Right.
So I figured it out that with the guitar, there's a mid range which the Hammond through a Marshall or whatever you're using doesn't have.
Right.
So I got him to push more of that. Don't ask me frequency wise. I don't know. I just the horse the guy, he was there, so I said, listen to this, right? Play it on, and I says, there's that hole, basically.
Right.
Fill that.
Where you need
Is
to
it
be. Okay.
is it up there? Is it like a bitey kind of frequency, or is it kind of a
it's more punchy, really.
Yeah, 700 or 800 probably, maybe.
Possibly, I'm not sure, but it was just, and he did that, and he did a couple of other things because he's one of these. He reminds me of Doc from Back to the Future. So but he's a lovely guy, and but he's a genius when it comes to amps. So he did it, and he brought it back, and I was just like, holy God, this thing's an animal, and it's like, that gig, I really enjoyed it. It was great crack, and I've been using that ever since. So, and he's constantly tweaking it for me, doing different other things too. So, but yeah, it's like I had never even considered Engl before because I always thought, they were more of the hard metal amps, and they do a lot of that stuff, but he knows what he's talking about when he built that. I'm just like, okay.
And the stuff is rugged.
Yes, that I was talking to Tommy about all this, and he was saying, well, they've been using Engls for 15 years now, and not one has ever broke, ever.
Wow.
Nothing has ever went wrong with them. He says he just changed the valves now and again, and that was it. And considering they're on trucks, they're flying all over the world.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And that for me is like, that's very important.
Sure.
And they have they're very good. They're very supportive. If you need anything, they'll just, where do you want it?
Sure.
When?
And all of the overdrive tones are amp, right?
Yes.
I can't see an overdrive pedal on here.
No.
There's an Octavia. So one of the things that when we first got here today, because there's a bunch of channel switching and stuff available in the amp, and I've got all that rigged up to be able to channel switch remotely from here. And someone says, no, I just have it on this one channel. So to clean up, you're rolling off the volume. Yeah. Can we just hear that for a second?
Yeah.
So full volume is like. Tunes pick up, you need to get in. Kind of the way I've always done it, and it's one thing I like about the PRSs as well, because they clean up.
So that's presumably got some sort of treble.
There's a little switch here. This is PRS brought this down because this is as close to what my guitar is.
Say hello to Piers, by the way, who's here today for PRS guitars. I think I might have known you nearly 20 years. Sorry.
So yeah, because both my guitars are on the rigs in Germany somewhere. So
so yours is the single cut with the semi hollow, yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of semi. It's kind of like I'd call it quarter hollow most of the time. It's basically hollow there, and but it has the two little. It's like a 408 guitar which they made before, but it has the these to split each pickup, really,
right.
So single coil.
And it has those pickups.
No, they are slightly different. They're I think, what is this, 2408? What's this, Piers? You should know. Anyway,
24 pickups and 8 sounds.
Yes, that's it. Yes. But no, my pickups are actually a little bit different because Paul actually winds them slightly different from me. But because I'm fussy. But yeah, it's essentially very similar. It just splits each pickup, and I think it's most guitars these days. There's a little treble bleed.
So is that a custom 24 then? Is that what that is?
It's an anniversary.
Yeah,
I think it's 2408.
Yeah, we've got nodding coming over there.
Well, that's me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just play.
I just the reason I asked about treble bleed, it is astonishing because there was one sound just before you went full on at the end there, where one of those switches was down, where you were getting all that pick aggression, even through all the gain.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to Purple for a second, that is a big part of the sound I would associate with Richie's Strat sound.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a bit perhaps, and it was all there, like that kind of, you can hear the pick on the strings.
Yeah. So the treble booster turned down that thing, and that's
if you put it on the single coil and you get that, you can get that really wiry. I'm hitting it very hard.
I can actually hear.
A lot of the,
Your intonation is amazing.
it is.
thank you. It's
Continually inspiring.
a lot of the I just learned over the years just to work on just dynamics with both hands, really. A lot of people think it's not with this hand. It's this hand and this hand you can gain a lot of dynamics. This hand more so because it's it's the driver, it controls everything. But certain things with this hand, you push slightly harder, you get different tones and stuff like that. I guess I learned it from Gary Moore. It's the way he played. He was very gentle with his left hand, very loose, very free, but so aggressive with his right hand. He just hits the whole string on one note. You get that percussive thing, and you put that through the amp. And that's why all his bands and everything sounded so wow.
Yeah.
It's just, but yeah.
Okay, so gain from amp then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, we all had a bit of a Gary moment there. Tear in my eye. Everything else on the board?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, hang on, we got another amp. What's going on there?
Okay, so the way this works is we have all these effects loops. Everything before effects loop number 8 is going into the front of the amplifier. Okay, so we've got slicer, octave, basically all of this stuff here is going into the front of the amplifier. We've got the whammy, which is actually in the front because Simon needs to get to that for a couple of other things. So it makes sense that that's right there. In loop 8, we actually have the preamp of the amplifier itself. When that comes back in, then it's split into, it goes into the phase 90 first, and then it's split into stereo for the SDE 3000, the Plethora, and the Space Echo RE202. So the left side goes back to the effects return of the Engl, which is basically the power amp in.
Yep.
And then the right side just goes to a power amp into another 4x12.
Okay.
So it's one preamp, feeds the stereo effects left and right out. So when we hear the sound, like which we just had a second ago with the reverb,
Ping pong delays.
And if you can't have stereo ping pong delay in a stadium rock band,
where can you have it?
You know what? I used to always play in mono, all right? And I blame COVID for everything. Because I sat for 2 years in my studio, 2 monitors, everything was in stereo. Went to rehearsal and went, oh, this is not going to work. Where's my ping pong delays? Where's my... Oh, no. So from that day on, I was like, okay, no, everything stereo. It's just... But when you're standing on stage and you stand right in between, it's like, oh, this is my heaven right here. I'm just standing in the... All this going on. Like, I'm an 80s child, so I grew up on that whole, rack systems and stuff. So I love all that sound, and that's probably why I probably use too much. I don't care.
Were you at any point tempted to go that direction and have a rack instead of a board?
Yes. But I think that the problem is with the racks, it's you have to go for the old stuff, but a lot of the old stuff is if it breaks down, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
They don't make them anymore, as you know. So it's like, I love the old stuff. I like the old SD 3000s. I used to have those, and years ago, I still use one bit of rack. I was like, I need to have at least one rack in my system. I I have a Lexicon reverb, which just stays on the rig the whole time. So after all this, basically goes into the Lexicon, which I just use for reverb, and that's on the whole time. There's something about the old gear. I don't know what it is. It's maybe that thing where it's not 100% crystal clear or doesn't have the best
There's a lot
bit
of
rate.
that. There's a lot of that. Yeah.
But also with those Lexicon reverbs and stuff, you've heard them on so many records.
Exactly that.
It is the sound that's imprinted in your brain, isn't it? And when you hear it, I think there's an emotional connection.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, about it.
A slight tangent, but we've said things like that before, and a lot of guys have said, "Oh, that's complete crap." But never underestimate how sensitive your ears are. Our ears have evolved to basically pick out people's voices and stuff, and exactly, very good. And when you hear, it's like when you hear reverb on an old Kate Bush album, and you can pick that sound out a mile away. And when if there's an element of that, with the Lexicon stuff, it's like it does bring a lot of that back. It's magical stuff. And then you've got the converters back then were different, and you get to things like 12-bit delays and that, and it's just I love it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's that's what I grew up listening to. So it's like you're always gonna go for that sound.
Sure.
It's like I think everybody has an inbuilt sound.
Sure.
You can't change it. It's like if I plug in the Fender amp, I'll be trying to get the sound of a Marshall out of it. Just and I will to a certain degree, but that's
That's what you're after.
So what I'll do,
have a walkthrough, shall we?
Yep. So I'll get. You always have reverb on in some description, but what I'll do for now, I'm just going to turn the reverb off. So basically, if we go in here, if I turn the reverb off, and then if you play a bit, and I'm just going to go through the pedals one at a time so we can hear them into the front of the amp without the reverb.
Yep.
So this is just the preamp into the amp.
Okay. I couldn't resist.
Oh man!
I love that pedal.
Was that
The Boomster.
the Boomster, the Jam Boomster? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was awesome. Okay, and then finally,
Oh, we missed one. Okay.
only the flag. It really is extraordinary. That stereo thing at volume, it's just
It's
massive hug.
And 412s. So normally these would be your 412s that you're using are Engl 412s.
Yes.
Do you know what speakers are in them?
Yes, they're just vintage 30s.
Oh,
Come
okay.
on.
Well, okay.
Just there's bottom row 3 cabs and then there's 3 on top. The middle one, as he said, we don't use. And it's also better for the stereo image thing.
Yeah.
So, but most of the time we would have the bottom cabs on full 4 speakers, and then we split the top cab, just depending on the venue, because every venue sounds different. Sometimes it might be a little bit darker the sound, so I get Tommy to turn on the very top speakers as well. So it's again, but that's just a venue thing, you know. It depends.
Are they loaded, the middle four?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Because that could be a handy cupboard. You could put
Yeah.
pack lunch and little wardrobe.
Yeah, put your sandwiches in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
fine.
Coffee machine, you know, a little bar.
Yes.
More importantly, never mind the sandwiches.
When Don's doing his solo, you can nip round the back for a swift one, couldn't you? That would be all. I think this is.
I think I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a plan.
Keith Richards does that. I think he has a bar at the back of his amps or something.
There you go.
Okay, so that's everything up to the preamp. Now, after the preamp, the send comes back, and we're going. First thing is the phaser,
Yes.
and it's really interesting the difference between having the phaser preamp and post preamp. So this is what it sounds like after the effects loop. So the post effects loop thing is because the whole effects loop signal is going through that phaser. So you get a lot of phaser. But if I just set this up for a second so that we can hear it before the preamp. So I've got a loop order. I'm going to go 1,
Oh yeah, I forgot you could do all this.
It's almost like you can switch the order of loops, Dan.
8.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
Wouldn't it?
I would, yeah.
So if I do the same thing, and so this is, I'll switch between them. So this is the I'll go from what we just had, and then I'll put the phaser in front. So this is what we just had. So the phaser after the preamp is a very effecty. They get lots of movement, but into the preamp, what we're doing is we're taking a guitar signal, we're phasing it, and then we're distorting that. So it gets rid of a lot of the edges and makes it sort of more integrated.
Yes.
So then you've got, those options as well.
Awesome, because they both sound great.
They do.
It's a matter of I suppose whatever song you need it for. The song I use at the Phase 90 in is Perfect Strangers.
Right.
It comes out of the. It goes to the G major, with the Phase 90 off. Then I put it on when it goes to the minor. The reason I like it after the preamp is because it does live, it just takes over everything.
Yeah.
Just for that one little chord. Because people ask me, why do I need such a big pedal board for Deep Purple when Richie didn't use any pedals? But that's another.
Who would say such a thing?
Sorry.
I know, yeah.
But I use every single pedal on that board. I use it in almost every set. Just small places.
Yeah.
Like simple things I'll use the Phase 90 on that chord, and then at the end of Perfect Strangers, just goes this big crescendo, right? And then basically what happens, everything just drops down like 2 octaves. And that's where I kick in the Ricochet, and I think I have delays on the phase 90, so it just goes to madness. You know, it's like whoa, speakers are rattling and everything, and so it's you know, but it's part of the show. It creates a thing, creates something different than just, oh, here's a guitar and an amp.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my theory on using effects. I don't use them all the time, but I use it sporadically and just on little points of the set. You know,
A splash of colour.
yeah, that's it. That's what effects are for. It's a slight effect here and there. You know, it's like the slicer pedal. People say, why do you use a slicer in Deep Purple? I go, well, there's this noisy section in Black Knight where it's just noise, and it's the Octavia delays on maximum and just whammy bar stuff, and then I kick in the slicer, which just takes over. And I use actually the expression pedal with a slicer, and I control the speed of it. So it's hard to, I'm not even going to attempt to sing it because it doesn't work. But that section has just become, wow, what is this? This is just mayhem. Yeah. And it's just a vibe. It's a thing, you know, it's a color for.
Is that the choppy bit where the keyboard goes really choppy, or is it something you do live that's not on the record?
No, this is not on record. This is just the live version we do is completely different.
Okay.
This is the end section. It goes into like another kind of guitar solo, but at the end of the guitar solo, I kind of go into this just mad, you know, freak out section. Really, you know, it's hard to describe. You'd have to watch it live just to see what happens.
To do that. Before we jump into some of the wet effects a bit more, one thing that struck me then when we were playing through all those sounds, with the 2 412s and the reverb on, and you put a bit of delay on at one point as well, it kind of sounds like a stadium
sound
already.
Yeah,
it sounds colossal.
Yeah.
Do you get any kickback from front of house saying, can you clean it up a bit, mate? That's too much wet.
No, because to be honest, here on stage I don't use as much reverb as I do in here.
Yeah.
Because this room's very dead.
Yeah.
So I like grease on the guitar. But when you're playing in stadiums or big arenas especially, you know, it's so, I just turn the reverb off most of the time.
Okay.
Because you
don't need it.
Because
you've got it.
Yeah, it's just there, you know. Yeah. It's more as a little comfort thing for when I do, you know, we do some of the big open air gigs where, you know, the sound just goes.
So you'll change things night on night depending on the venue and what's going on stage. So when you're doing your sound check, you're kind of working out exactly what you need.
Well, I don't really do a sound check.
Nice.
Tommy does it, the guitar tech. The techs do all the sound check. Most of the time I just walk on stage. The first few shows, I always went down in the afternoon. I always still try to go down in the afternoon just to make sure everything's
happy.
Cool and, you know.
Don't you run up and down the stage shouting, I'm in Deep Purple? That's what I would do.
With a cape.
Yeah, with a cake, a purple cake.
So, yeah, it's... But so I generally sometimes adjust things on the fly in the middle of the gig. You know, I'll just start playing like the phase 90. I play that with my foot a lot because it's got, you know, to control the speed and stuff as well. But certain effects, like I've seen me frantically going into this, you know, the TC pedal and at it in the middle of it, he's doing a bit of a break here. Done. Just because when I play it, I go, oh, that's a bit loud or something too much, so I'll back it off. But no, I don't get any complaints because, as I said, I don't use that much. I'm very aware of how much, I don't know, it just must be years of experience. I just know what works live and what doesn't.
That's fascinating because another thing that Simon told us off camera before we started filming was that nobody's using in-ears.
No.
So it's all wedges.
There's no edges on stage either. Side fills. So we have a peak.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yes.
What do you put your foot on then?
My pedalboard. Why do you think I want such a big pedalboard?
but then, my point of mentioning that is that you're hearing the room and you're hearing the band, and you can therefore make changes. Whereas if you've got your perfect in-ear mix, you've got no way of.
You're completely isolated.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, when you play on the bigger gigs, people, like, we are loud. There's no doubt about it. They, those guys are as old school as you get, and they just don't know how to play any other way but loud. But when you're on stadiums, when you're on stage, it's not that loud.
Yeah.
Because it's massive.
It's massive. Yeah. It's, I'd stand in front of my rig and I'm not killing myself, I remember in South America, we were doing, 65,000 people, which is awesome. And I remember we did this, like a huge club, and we just went on with the same settings, and it nearly killed my hearing because we went from stadium to club, big club, but it's just like, I turned it right down, and so it's actually, when you do the bigger venues, it's not actually that loud, No, we're not allowed to. There's no in-ear monitors. There's no Kempers, no digital stuff. That's as I said. That's a bad word in Deep Purple. It's which is good because a lot of the bands that we toured with or on before, or like we did some shows with Kiss and stuff, and the Scorpions, but they're all using Kempers, so it's a quiet stage. Like it's a drum solo. You're standing on stage, which is
can't get my head around
that. I suppose it's a logistic thing really of costs and stuff, but I don't like it. I've used in-ears before. I think they're a blessing if you're a singer,
sure,
and you're touring and you're doing a long tour where you're playing 5-6 shows a week, which I did for 9 weeks at one point on my own thing, and the only way I could have done it was with the in-ear monitors because my voice would have been gone after second show because wedges are great, but they're never loud enough. You especially for singing and pitching, you end up over singing and shouting, and then your voice just goes. So, but no, we have side fills which are ridiculously loud. But I positioned myself very well. Just right here. Don's back there somewhere, and then,
you find that one spot.
Yes, stand here.
Relief spot.
Yeah, it's even worse if I go to Roger's side though. It's Roger's. It's like a little journey. It's like walk from my rig. Oh, there's the keyboard. It sounds incredible. No, keep going. And then Pacey, who's actually not that loud. And then you get to Roger's side, and it's like, oh God, just keep walking. Like it sounds incredible, but it's just so loud.
Yeah.
Roger's just so loud. But that's what they do. That's how they play. That's how they perform. They've done it for years. And
it's the noise.
I'm not going to come in and go, no, I think you need to do this or do that. They are who they are.
Hades, can you pass me my book, please? So just before I forget, and one thing that I've been doing just to add a bit of colour to the proceedings. So Simon mentioned that he turns the knob with his foot.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to make a note. I'm going to lift up the phaser a little bit to make it easier to get your foot over and turn the knob. So it's just...
That would be nice. It would save my guitar tech Tommy standing at the side of the stage laughing at me going, what's he doing with his feet?
Dan's invented some very strong electromagnets and they oppose one another, so it just levitates off.
Nice. Yeah. It's like the hoverboards and
exactly.
Yeah.
And automatically plays a dim 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 dim. That's like the Back to the Future.
If there is a technological solution that can fail, it's much better than a piece of wood that will never fail.
Yeah, of course.
That's where we are. So, wet effects then. It's very nice to see the SD3000. We've got one in a box out there and we haven't tried it yet. There's not my bank account balance on the top. What the hell? Oh, I see. Not that complex.
No, it's pretty simple. You get your time, your feedback, your out, which is your master volume.
Yeah. Actually, that's really cool. And they're just on.
And they're on. Yeah. It's good, isn't it?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
It's just like the racks. Because I remember when I was saying to you earlier about it, I phoned Matt from Boss and I asked him, says, are these any good? Because I did have the racks and I absolutely loved them. He says, yes, that's just the same. I was like, all right, so I plugged it in. I was like, oh, hallelujah.
Well, we've got to hear that. We've got to hear that.
Yeah. thing is, right, for a lot of people, that would just be way too much delay and it would stomp over everything they're playing. But because you understand it, because there's so much clarity in the rig, because of the clarity with the way you play, it's so in harmony. It's so enveloping, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you know, it's... I grew up playing with lots of effects and stuff over the years. So I know what to play when using that much delay. Like, I wouldn't play a load of fast stuff because it just get all messy. It's, you know, that's why I sometimes I would use the TC for the delay, because the SDE is amazing and it's like you're in this big circle of space. It's a weird thing. It's like they've captured, I don't know, Dolby Atmos in a delay pedal. It's weird. Whereas the TC is a little bit more direct. So if I'm doing more fast stuff, I would use that. You know, just not so much, but just a little bit, because it just helps fill the gaps. You know?
Right.
You know, so yeah, it's just knowing what each pedal, what you can play with it, or what you can do with it. You know, what to play. It's, you know, that's why I have so many. You know, I as I said, I grew up playing some of the SDEs, and so I know what they use with it. Like I also have the Space Echo, and I only use it for a certain few things, which I know it works with.
Sure.
You know, and that's it. And
well, let's hear the Space Echo then.
Yeah. What do you use the Space Echo for?
No, I think this is a new one, so it doesn't have my presets in it or anything yet, but it's kind of like that very fast, you know, you hear the delay and then it just starts to taper off, filter out a little bit. But there's a song we do called Anya, and it just kind of fills the space a little bit. It's not intrusive. It's just there.
It's like somewhere in between an actual delay and something that you would associate with Sid era Floyd. It's almost like a reverb, the way it kind of like they would get from the Echo Rec.
Yeah, I love that pedal. I have 3 of them. Don't ask me why. I just have 3 of them. No, I get bored at night. Start playing with knobs.
What shall I buy tonight? Oh.
So, but yeah, no, it's a great pedal. I use it, and I use it in certain solos. The one I have programmed, it might be the other one. I can't remember, but on the B rig or whatever rig this is, I don't know. I have it. There's one of the presets. It's just it's not like a slapback delay, but it's more like a very quick delay, but just a couple of repeats, and it's quite quiet. And I use that just certain solos.
Like a thickener.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. It's not like you can hear a load of delay going on with like the SDE and stuff, but it just does something to the sound. It sounds like I'm playing a dry solo, but there's something else there.
I think this is a really important point to note. None of these have appeared on the board by accident. Like Simon's really done his homework. Before this stuff was sent over, it's not like, I just need a chorus and a phaser and whatever, and just sent me a bunch of stuff. Simon has a very specific job for every single thing on this board. Nothing's there by accident, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's taken me, as I said, since I joined Purple, it's taken me a year to figure out what I need. Like there's certain pedals, like I'll use the Waterfall in Perfect Strangers, and it's just for one section. It's a section on the record, which I think was initially like a Fender Rhodes part or something, but nobody really, and Steve never played it, and I just thought, I heard it, went, I have to play that section. It's really cool, and if you kick it on, it's, and there's chorus on the TC, but it's more like a tri-stereo
Yeah.
kind of a chorus.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work for that section, not because there's a little bit of a warble and it's in front of the amp. It worked better for this little part. So I have spent time going through each song, going, okay, what can I do just to make this a little bit more, for one, me, and a little bit more interesting for the listener.
Sure.
You know? So, because there's nothing worse, I find, if you go to see a gig and the guitar player has one sound the whole night.
Totally.
It's like,
Totally.
you know, so that's, you know, that's why I use it all, because it's plus gives me something to do. You know?
Okay, this might sound like a really silly question.
Mhm.
Can you show me
Yes.
us?
Mhm.
Because I've seen a number of guitar players play that, and they've all played it differently.
Yes.
It sounds really simple.
Yeah.
I've seen them like pedal the A and do it. I've seen them just play big power chords. How is it actually played?
If we have to cut this for copyright, I can only apologise, but we're going to do it anyway. First of all, what sound do you use for this? Because the first bit is keys, right? The first bit isn't guitar. Is that correct?
No, it's a guitar starts it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and then drums come in, and then bass, and then Don comes in actually halfway through that with he doubles the riff.
Yes.
with his
Okay.
left hand.
Yeah.
So it's got this real gnarly Hammond distorted Marshall.
That's
thing
why I was
going.
confused earlier.
So, you know, it's a really simple thing, and the problem is everybody plays it. Guitarists, they all play it like guitarists.
Okay.
They can't resist, you know, throwing in a vibrato or this and that.
A little bit of a lick in the middle.
Yeah, or something. It's just like, no. The reason it's the most popular riff ever is because it's just. And so there's a timing thing with it as well. It's knowing when to come off the chords, because every time Basie comes in with a hi-hats, which is like a every time he hits that snare, you stop. It's so simple, but everybody.
And it's not. Oops. It's damaged now, Piers.
It's broken.
It'll have to stay
That's
here.
mine.
It's a second. It's not. There's none of that, right?
I'll play it wrong now. Sorry. Turn it up. A lot of people I hear go, you know. And they try to play the bass bars, play everything. And it's like,
You forgot the pitch harmonic on the end as well.
oh yeah, no. We'll leave that to Zach. No, it's a simple thing, and
But it takes discipline to play it properly.
Yes.
Right? You got to. Yeah.
it's one
That's
of
really cool.
and people go, you know, oh, Richie played it with his fingers, and I go, yeah, it doesn't matter where you play with you can play with your fingers, you get more of a pull towards it, but with that much gain, it doesn't make much difference.
Sure.
You know, it's a simple thing, and I believe these things, the reason they're so popular is because the way they were done originally, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That old saying.
Yeah.
But there's lots of the stuff on the Purple records, and it is so simple, and you just have to play it the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you play it any way different, you lose that drive. You know, you have Deep Purple has a sound,
Yeah.
and it's a force of nature when it kicks in. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and if you deviate from that in any way, it's just like, it just doesn't sound like Purple. Then it
Yeah.
doesn't loses that thing that they're famous for.
And with that in mind, you weren't tempted with a Strat and a Marshall Major and a Treble Booster.
No, definitely not. You know, I get it all the time. I get, I get a lot of the hardcore, Richie fans, telling me I should be playing a Strat. And I go, well, no. Yeah, it's a Strat and a Marshall. And I'm going, I'm not going to go bitching on any of them, but, a lot of these guys they don't have a clue what they're talking about when it comes to, they what they hear on the record, they think that comes straight from a Strat and a Marshall. And I'm going, well, not really. It's the speakers, it's the mics, it's the preamps is going through, it's all that stuff.
It doesn't transform as it goes through before it hits, and
it's mixed down. And so, because when you put a guy with a Strat in a room with a fire-breathing Marshall, Plexi or something at 10, good luck. It's different. It's different to what you hear in the record.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of those live recordings, actually, when you hear him play, as soon as it stops playing, and it's just feedback.
It's unbelievably loud.
Yeah.
They're just hard to control. And, as I said, I grew up with that element in most of the amps that I had, so that's what I wanted from the Engl as well. So I wanted a little bit of that, wildness to kick in places. So, but yeah, it's...
Could we hear the Ricochet quickly? Because you did mention something that you used it for earlier, but I don't think we heard it.
I use it in two places. I use it in the start of Highway Star. On the record, Gillen, there's overdub, 4 or 5 different vocals, and they're all going really, really, really high. I'll have to do it. I need 3 things on. I need that. I need probably that, the SD.
And the SD?
Yep.
Sorry, got the tuner on.
And this.
Sorry, the Boomster or the Phase 90?
The Boomster.
The Boomster?
Yeah. And one. Yeah. So if you just, I'll tell you, after 4, right? You just hit the buttons. You can be my button pusher. So 1, 2, 3. I would have killed everything, and it's just straight into the riff.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Isn't that great?
That's completely awesome. Did you say that's when he's singing the high bits?
That on the record, there's a whole big. They've overdubbed lots of him screaming and stuff, but obviously trying to do that live, it doesn't really work. So that because I have it set on, it goes up 2 octaves, but it stays on the original signal. So you have this parallel thing going up, and I'm just hitting different harmonics here and just basically going, that's it really. And just
and you're doing
it works perfectly.
200 watts in a stadium.
Yes,
it's just 1,000 watts in a stadium.
But it's just such a big build up, until we get to the straight into Highway Star. And when you have 65,000 people in South America just going bananas at that point, it's just like, oh, this is it. This is life.
Wow.
That is so cool.
I also use it at the end of Perfect Strangers, where I would switch it and just put it so it goes down. And start hitting the guitar. Don't tell PRS that, and just crazy stuff, and it's one thing I never ever thought I would use in a Whammy pedal in Deep Purple,
Yeah.
Well, I never thought I'd be in Deep Purple ever, so there you go. There's 2 new things.
Awesome, man.
Fantastic.
Awesome. So before we talk about guitars just very briefly, does all the Purple shenanigans mean solo stuff is few and far between, or where are we with all that?
It's, to be honest, because the Purple schedule is so full on, it's hard to try and do anything. And anytime I do get time off, I like to go home, and I have 2 young kids, and a family, so it's nice to get home and just to see them, because it's tough on them, me being away a lot. But my solo career is kind of temporarily on hold a little bit. I released an album in 2022. I have another one ready to go, and an instrumental album ready to go, so it's all sitting there waiting, but I suppose after the Purple record's out, things will start to open up, or I don't know, who knows what will happen.
What's the trajectory on that then? So you played us some sneaky clips earlier.
Is there allowed to tell us that you played us some sneaky clips?
Yeah, it's fine.
We imagined it.
You imagined it, yeah. I don't know. It's really just. I think it'll be out next year at some point, but
Yeah, okay.
that's all.
But it's not out September 21st.
No.
No, okay. All right, so look out next year for that. Guitars.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that your tour guitar is your guitar, the single cut with the quarter
Yes.
thing. We've got this Custom 24 today. We've got one of the new NF53s.
Yes.
Is that what this is? And you wanted to try it.
Yes.
Are you prepared to try it on camera?
Of course.
This one's broke, I think.
Is it,
Sorry, it's an old gag.
Me to you.
It's very pretty.
It's lovely. Okay. So
Turn all the crap off.
turn all the crap off. Okay. This is on. Do you want this on?
Yeah.
Bit of reverb. Yeah, there we go.
The tuner. Sorry. That sounds killer.
It sounds incredible.
You know, I always find with, you know, these style of guitars, can I say the word? Begins with T. You know, I always use one in the studio. If I'm layering up guitars, I'll always use a Tele, and
Sorry.
a PRS. You know, a Telecaster and a PRS, just because some of the combination just with this and it just pokes its head through the mix all the time, even on a big rock sound. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah,
it's hard to hear with, you know, what the Tele should sound like. If you plug it in the clean up, it would probably sound cool.
So
Can I just, if you play this one now,
All right.
I just want to hear the difference between that and red.
It's the same colours, man. At
It
home.
might need a quick tune. Actually, we'll need a quick tune. Okay, and so now red. That's fascinating.
I've heard hundreds of hours of that guitar in my ears, and I think I could pick it out over pretty much any other.
It does exactly what it says in the tin, as they say. You
Yeah.
know, this is, it's a lot. It would have more of that. It wouldn't be as high output as that.
No, it does sound. It doesn't sound as gainy. There's that single edge, single coil attack on the bridge pickup, especially.
Yeah.
Whereas this is fat and
Yeah, it still has that. I think that still has the sound.
Yeah.
It's just different.
yeah.
It's
That's
definitely
fascinating.
There was elements of twang when you turned it down for sure.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be allowed to hold on to one of these, aren't we? So whether it's this one or a different one, but be good to get
Now,
to know.
Simon's taking this one with him.
Good to know.
I stole this one. Yeah.
Not if we break his bloody leg.
Okay, so I think what I'll do now is I'll take Simon through the board and set up a few things.
Yeah.
Because I need to know how you want to use it and set it up, and so
Yes.
we'll go through and make sure that you understand how well that works. Then once we've got all that done, I think we'll just get a few sounds and let Simon play us out.
Play at the end. Okay. Would be an appropriate time for a finger click then, wouldn't it?
Indeed. And we're back in the room. So what we've done is we've set up a few core tones. We've set up 5 core tones for Simon here, and then a bunch of stomp box things, which just means that Simon can kick in and out pedals on the fly. I've written everything down. I'm going to go back and label everything up.
What does core tones mean?
So a core tone just means that button has that sound. So for example, this is the main dry sound, which is the preamp and a bit of reverb.
Right in the feels.
It's so good. And then from there, I think the next core tone is the same thing, but we're adding the Boomster in as a boost type thing. So we go from here. Now, during that, you've noticed a couple of other presets changing. So at the same time as pressing one of these foot switches, we're sending out specific MIDI signals to get the right delay and the right reverb sound. On top of that, we've got there's the Boomster here. We've got the Octavia, so that no matter what sound Simon is on, he can kick other things on the fly and build up sounds without being tied down to a preset.
So you can preset a core thing and then on off with something on top.
Exactly.
Like an octave.
Exactly.
Cool. How do you feel about that, Simon? How do you does it seem intuitive? And
it's one of the reasons I came to Don, because as I said before, I was tap dancing a lot. There's certain I don't use a lot of presets where I need to turn on 3-4 things at a time. But there's just core things, like if I jump to a solo, a lot of the time I would use delay, so I don't want to have to hit 2 buttons to a boost and a delay. So I wanted to do that. But I also like that freedom of going, I want to turn that on right now in the middle of the song. So it's this thing is incredible that you can just hit a preset. Now the next button that just turns on that. It's like, oh, okay, unbelievable. It's you just whatever you think of, you can, from what I can gather, you can do it.
Yeah.
Which is great. It'll make it, I think initially it'll take me a little while just to,
like any new bit of gear,
get my head around. But I think I've used MIDI switchers in the past. So, but I've just spent the last few years without one, so it'll take me a little while to remember I don't have to turn on 3 pedals.
That's it. That's that sound. So this the way Simon's using it, because it's very flexible and it'll change. So if someone says, okay, well, what we're now doing 50 really complicated songs and every song has got 28 different sounds in it, well, then we can change things around. But for now, for exactly what Simon needs to get going, I know exactly the tweaks I need to make. Like I need to raise up the phase 90 for him, and the expression pedal thing, a couple of little bits and pieces just to make sure that's all great. Then what I'll do is I'll go and replicate that exactly on the second board, and then these are off to Germany or somewhere.
Yeah, all the gear is kept in Germany, and then it's all shipped from Germany to India.
Right.
So both rigs are going to India.
Wow.
I think it's
And I guess a
easier
long
that way.
conversation with Tommy as well. Is it Tommy, did you say, Guitar
Yeah.
Tech?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's going to need to know how.
Oh, he'll just look at that and go, Simon. He can barely figure out the last one, you know. So, no, Tommy's all right. He's that's why he'll just go through I'll show him through it, you know. Just I think we have a production day before we play in India, so we'll be fine. I'll just sit with him for an hour or two and go through it. This is all you need to worry about, Tommy. Just make sure this is on. All the pedals are turned on.
Perfect.
No, he's great. He's
Awesome.
Wicked. Well, I think we say thank you very much, Simon.
Yeah,
for
mate.
coming
Thank you so
down.
much. It's been
Piers, thank you for being here too, buddy.
Yeah.
It's great to see you.
Yeah.
You
Really
too,
is.
you too.
It's joyous to hear you play again.
oh, thank you
It
very much.
really is.
man.
And a belated congratulations on the gig.
Thank you.
Amazing, mate.
So I guess play us out, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Okay, let's go for. Are we on?